Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. It comes as a surprise to nobody that Hamza Yousaf is failing as First Minister. After all, he's failed in everything he's ever done. He's failed at justice, and before that, he failed at health. And boy, do we know how he failed at health. Indeed, this article we're going to look at now relates back originally to the time he started and was the Health Secretary, but it has continued all the way through till now he's the First Minister, and so ultimately he is still responsible. After all, he is the one who appoints the current Health Secretary, who is no good at their job either. So we'll take a look at this article, see how bad it really is in the NHS in Scotland. And let me tell you, if you're unaware, and I'm sure you're not unaware, it is really bad. Every single metric is a fail. And we'll see some of them here. Let's go. So Hamza Yousaf blasted as unacceptable figures show thousands of NHS patients wait years for operations. And to be honest, is it any wonder that the private sector medical care business is going, ballistic at the moment in this country? People are signing up for the likes of Bupa and similar things to that, AXA and whatever, Aviva do it. They're signing up for these people as quick as you can because you simply cannot get the healthcare you need. Anyway, more than 2,000 Scots are waiting unacceptable amounts of times for an operation, as Labour points the finger at the First Minister's legacy of broken promises as Health Secretary for the mess. More than 2,200 Scots have been waiting for 2 years or more for life-changing orthopaedic surgery, with more than 200 having been on the list for at least 3 years. These new figures have showed 3 years waiting for a life-changing operation. This is unacceptable. Well, apart from being unacceptable, what kind of country has 3-year waiting lists for things like this? This is ridiculous. This is worse than Cuba. This is what there's third world countries out there that have better medical facilities than Scotland. But then they're not run by the SNP, are they? With First Minister Hamza Yousaf having previously pledged action in the NHS to reduce long waits, Labour said his time as Health Secretary had left a legacy of broken promises and missed targets, which, as I say, surprises nobody because he's never ever managed to do anything he's ever wanted to do. I mean, he talks a good game. He sits there, I promise to do this, I promise to do this, we will do this, we will deliver on that. And nothing, and it doesn't matter what department he's had, nothing has ever been done. Labour Health spokesman Jackie Bailey insisted it was unacceptable for patients to have to wait years, sometimes in excruciating pain, for operations. But what do you expect when you have the likes of Hamza Yousaf as the Health Minister? The man doesn't know one end of a spatula from the other. Data provided by the Health Secretary Michael Matheson, he's the current Health Secretary, he's also failing, but hey, no change there then, showed that there were 43,681 people waiting for orthopaedic procedures, such as hip and knee replacements, at the end of last year. These included 2,207 patients who'd been waiting 2 years or more, and 225 who'd been on the list for at least 3 years. The number having the longest waits of 3 years or more was up from 93 at the end of June 2022. However, the number waiting 2 years or more was higher then at 2,609. So undoubtedly he will now spin this as being, oh, look how marvellous we're doing. We've only got 2,500 people waiting for these operations. Doesn't cut much mustard, does it? But Labour highlighted Mr Yousaf's pledge from July 2022 when, as Health Secretary, he had promised to end 2-year waits for inpatient and day case treatment in most specialities by the end of September last year. And, surprise, surprise, he failed. Ms Bailey said last year Hamza Yousaf made a promise to end long waits in orthopaedic surgery. 1 year on, and that promise has clearly been broken. That man couldn't promise to make you a cup of tea without failing. He'd bring back, a cup of cocoa. It'll have an orange stuck in it and it'll be poured to, be served to you in a plastic plant pot. That's how useless this man is. Instead of making good on his promise, thousands are still waiting over 2 years to receive life-changing treatment, leaving thousands of Scots living in pain and desperation. Yeah, and not just the ones in hospital. I mean, there's millions of Scots living in pain and certainly desperation, but that's because they've got an SNP government. She added, "It is simply unacceptable that patients are being asked to live in excruciating pain for years while awaiting treatment. It is all too clear that Humza Yousaf spent more time as the Health Secretary plotting for the top job than honouring his promise to Scots living in pain." You can guarantee as well, I will bet £100, right? And if I'm wrong, I'll put £100 into charity that Humza Yousaf has got private medical insurance. You can just know he has. Anyway, this is Humza's legacy as Health Secretary. Broken promises and missed targets. Miss Bailey insisted that the current Health Secretary must tackle this issue head on and make right the wrongs of Humza Yousaf's tenure as Health Secretary. And while they're at it, can they get the current Justice Secretary to put right all the things he did as Justice Secretary? And can we get someone else in as First Minister to put right all the things that he's done wrong as First Minister? Thankfully, he's only been in power 9 weeks, so it isn't. There isn't much that he's done wrong. Oh, hang on, no, everything's wrong, isn't it? Who am I kidding? A Scottish Government spokesman said, "We must recognise the enormous impact the pandemic." Bullshit! The pandemic. Yes, the Black Death during the 1300s has had a terrible effect on the Scottish NHS, hasn't it? The Great Flood of Noah caused a run on the NHS. Oh, give over with the bloody pandemic. It has nothing to do with that, because the pandemic isn't on now, and you've got doctors sitting there and nobody is doing these operations. We know that the challenges remain, and there's still unacceptable waits in some specialities. Read all specialities, including orthopaedics. But we are determined to provide the support necessary to drive improvements in these specialities. The thing about orthopaedics is, and people don't realise this, is that orthopaedics can affect so much more. When you've got an issue with bones, if you've got any kind of splintering, thing like that, anything from inside the bone can get out into the blood. It can cause life-ending difficulties. It is very, very dangerous, which is why orthopaedics is actually one of the most specialised areas, because of you've got the things like the bone marrow, you've got all the things inside the actual bones, especially the larger bones. There's people who've broken big toes and have died from it because of the toe leaking stuff into the bloodstream. Orthopaedics is a lot more serious than people think, and that is why it needs to be addressed far, far quicker, and especially with older people, because it affects them much worse. If an older person falls down, that can be life-ending for them. Anyway, 4 national treatment centres will open this year, including NTC Fife, which opened in March, and NTC Highland in April. These centres will provide significant additional protected capacity for orthopaedic, ophthalmic and diagnostic procedures. Well, let's hope they do. But the fact remains that the lies he said when he said he would solve it, and they remained, he did not solve it. And indeed, if anything, it's getting worse. And so, yeah, we've got yet another example of another fail by the serial failure who's got nothing right in his entire life, and he wants us to trust him. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could comfortably remove his kidney. Anyway, I shall round off there and come up. So, more fails from the king of fails. I mean, he really is an absolute joke, isn't he? He talks all these things. Oh, I'll do this, I'll do that. Nothing ever gets done. Things get worse. And then, now that I'm First Minister, I can blame other people. No, Humza Yousaf, it's your fault. It's your responsibility. You said you'd sort this out, and you didn't. There's no point foisting this off onto a new minister. It's your baby. You sort it out. Go on, you can do it. No? Of course you can't, because it takes talent, it takes intelligence, it takes a little bit of intellectual thought to sort these problems out. All of those things, well outside your area of expertise. But next time I need someone to colour those pictures in and not go over the lines, you're the man. Well, I say not go over the lines very much. You're the man. Anyway, I shall round it off there. He's such a failure, isn't he? If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, but definitely leave the like. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, don't go to hospital if you can avoid it because it's bloody awful, and goodbye.